You're being ridiculous, Mark. Eric needs this more than you do, my mum said, waving the deed in my face during what was supposed to be a joyful housewarming party. He has a family to support. What do you have? Just yourself. The words hit like a slap. I stood there in the kitchen of the house I'd spent my entire life savings on, struggling to breathe as the floor figuratively fell out beneath me. My name is Mark Reynolds. I'm 33, a full-time trauma nurse at Memorial Hospital in Richmond, Virginia. I never thought betrayal would come from my own family, let alone like this. For the past decade, I'd picked up every extra shift, every holiday no one else wanted, worked through illness and burnout. I saved every cent I could, finally scraping together $175,000 to help my aging parents buy a new home after their original house went into foreclosure. We had a clear agreement, legal even. The house would be in my name. I paid the entire down payment. The rest was a mortgage under my name. It was my house. But apparently, to my family, that meant nothing. My stepbrother Eric, the golden boy from my mum's second marriage, stood off to the side with his usual smug look. He was 38, with a pregnant girlfriend and a string of failed business ventures behind him. He'd never contributed a single dollar to our parents, never helped when things got hard. And now suddenly, he was being gifted my house. We already filed the paperwork, my stepdad George said casually, eyes not even meeting mine. It's in Eric's name now. You should be proud. You're helping your brother start a family. Proud? I felt like I was drowning in rage. This house, the colonial I fell in love with, was supposed to be my future. A place where I'd imagined holidays, stability, maybe even a family of my own someday. Now it was being handed to someone who hadn't earned a damn thing. Around the room, people who had come to celebrate were now whispering. My Aunt Sarah stood in the back, visibly upset. My best friend Kyle looked like he was ready to fight someone. And there I was, heart thudding in my chest, eyes locked on the people I had trusted most. This isn't right, I said finally, voice shaking. That was my life savings. We had an agreement. My mother sighed like I was inconveniencing her. Don't be so dramatic. You're a nurse. You'll make the money back. Eric needs this. He has real responsibilities now. It's not like you have anyone depending on you. That's when something in me broke. The years of being the responsible one, the fixer, the one who paid, stayed quiet, sacrificed. All of it came crashing down. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Desperate and in tears, my mum had called me 6 months ago. Mark, we're going to lose the house. She sounded broken, and I didn't hesitate. I'd been saving for years, dreaming of a small cottage, a bit of land, maybe a dog. Somewhere quiet to finally settle, start fresh. Instead, I offered up my entire savings, $175,000. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that maybe, just maybe, it would prove to my family I was worth something to them. We toured houses together for weeks. I was the one who found the Colonial on Maple Street. Classic lines, solid foundation, just enough space without feeling overwhelming. You're such a blessing, honey, my mum had said as she hugged me in the driveway the day we signed the preliminary papers. We'll make this work as a family. I believed her. God help me, I wanted to believe her. I ignored the warning signs, the whispered phone calls she took when I entered the room, the random lawyer meetings I wasn't invited to, the paperwork delays that didn't make sense. Rachel, my best friend, had tried to warn me. Mark, get everything in writing. This feels off. I waved her off. They wouldn't screw me over, Rach. It's my family. I spent the day before the housewarming at Target, buying things for the place I thought was mine. Towels, new bedding, throw pillows that matched the living room paint, even a welcome mat that said home sweet home. Now every one of those items felt like a punch in the gut. A collection of cruel jokes. I stood frozen in the kitchen as Eric strutted around like he'd earned this. My blood boiled listening to him brag. We'll probably gut the kitchen first, he said to Jessica, running his hand over the granite countertops I had picked out. Might knock out that wall too. Really open it up. The kitchen I'd imagined hosting Thanksgiving dinners in, he was talking about tearing it apart. I thought of every overnight shift, every holiday I'd worked at the hospital while they celebrated without me. The dates I'd missed, the vacations I'd never taken, the student loans I was still paying off. They hadn't just stolen my money, they'd stolen my years, my peace. Guests had started slipping out quietly, awkward smiles, no eye contact. I sat alone at the counter, phone in hand, mind spinning, when Rachel slid into the seat beside me. "You need to call Marcus," she whispered, referring to her brother, a real estate attorney. "Something about this stinks. They can't just transfer a deed without your consent, not legally." That's when Eric passed by again, obnoxiously loud. "We'll get rid of these cabinets first," he said. "Jessica hates this finish anyway." I looked up. Above the fridge, right where Mom always kept the important stuff, the folder, the original agreement, the paperwork we'd reviewed together when all of this began. While the others were distracted, I slipped over, grabbed the folder, and quietly stuffed it into my bag. "I need some air," I told Rachel, heading out to the porch. My hands were shaking as I opened it. And there it was, the signed document that clearly stated the house was to be in my name in exchange for the down payment. And beneath it, a letter from their lawyer, dated 2 weeks ago, warning that transferring the deed without my knowledge could constitute fraud. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother: "Stop sulking outside, come back in and be happy for your brother." That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just betrayal, it wasn't about the house anymore. It was about principle, and they had no idea who they were messing with. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about finally standing up for myself after a lifetime of being sidelined. With my hands still shaking, I texted Marcus, "You free tomorrow morning? I need legal help." His reply came fast. "Rachel told me what happened. Come to my office at 9. Bring all the paperwork." I walked back into the living room where my mom, George, and Eric were still gathered, probably making renovation plans for my house. They looked up as I stepped in, their expressions laced with annoyance and smug dismissal. "Finally decided to stop sulking?" my mom asked, arching an eyebrow. I gave a tight, unexpected smile. "Actually, I want to thank you," I said, voice calm. They glanced at each other, clearly caught off guard, probably expecting more begging or tears. "You've helped me see everything more clearly than ever." I turned to leave, grabbing my keys and slipping my bag over my shoulder. Eric let out a chuckle. "See? He's fine. He'll get over it." I stopped in the doorway, looked him straight in the eye. "No, Eric, I won't get over it. But you're gonna wish I had." The next morning, I sat in Marcus's office, gripping a coffee cup like a life raft. He flipped through the documents I'd brought, the original agreement, bank statements, the warning letter from their attorney. He scribbled notes, shook his head more than once. After what felt like an hour, he looked up. "Mark, they seriously screwed up here," he said, holding up the lawyer's letter. "This wasn't just shady, it's flat-out fraud." "But the deed's already in Eric's name," I said quietly. "It's done." Marcus leaned forward. "A fraudulent deed transfer can be reversed, and this letter, it proves they were warned. I've got contacts at the DA's office. They'll want to take a look at this. We're talking potential criminal charges here." Criminal charges. Even after everything, the thought made my stomach twist. I didn't want to see my mother in handcuffs, or George. Even Eric, as much as I hated what he'd done, was still technically family. "I don't want to put my parents in jail," I admitted. "That's not what this is about." Marcus didn't sugarcoat it. "They stole $175,000 from you, Mark. That's grand theft. They forged signatures, manipulated documents, and from these bank statements, it looks like they may have committed wire fraud too." He paused. "They're counting on you to roll over, to be too nice to fight back." And he was right. They'd counted on that for years, that I'd be the understanding one, the stable one, the one who sacrifices quietly. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed over and over again, texts from my mom alternating between guilt trips and gaslighting. "Don't ruin your family over this. Stop acting like a child. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Marcus watched me. "What do you want to do?" I didn't hesitate. "I want my house back. And I want them to understand they don't get to treat me like this ever again." He nodded, already pulling up legal documents on his screen. "We'll file for an emergency injunction today. That'll freeze the property, keep them from selling, renovating, or touching a thing." He typed rapidly. "Then we go after a full reversal of the deed and damages. They'll be served by tomorrow." I sat back, heart pounding, not with fear but with resolve. For once, I wasn't the one being taken advantage of. I was taking back what was mine. As I left Marcus's office that day, I felt something I hadn't felt since the housewarming party. Peace. No shaking, no tears. Just a grounded sense of calm. I headed to my evening shift in the ICU, parked my car and walked in like it was any other night. Except this time, I wasn't carrying their betrayal like a weight on my shoulders. Halfway through my shift, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. 7 missed calls from Eric, 12 from my mom. Dozens of texts, ranging from aggressive to desperate. The last one from Eric actually made me laugh. "What the hell did you do?" I silenced the screen and turned back to my patients. Let them panic, let them sit with the uncertainty they'd thrown at me. They'd find out soon enough what happens when the nice sun finally stops rolling over. By the next morning, chaos had fully erupted. I was getting dressed for work when Rachel called, her voice barely hiding her excitement. "They're outside your apartment, Mark, like full meltdown mode." I looked out my window, and sure enough, there they were. Eric was pacing like a caged animal. My mum was pounding on the building's front door like she was trying to break in. I threw on a jacket and went downstairs, stepping out onto the front step just as my mum yelled, "You have to stop this. This will tear our family apart." I kept my voice calm, steady. That's rich coming from the people who stole my life savings. Eric stepped forward, his face flushed with rage. "You're being ridiculous. I have a baby on the way. What were you going to do with that house anyway? Live there alone with your cats?" "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "I've got the original agreement right here. Want to see the letter from your lawyer warning you the transfer was illegal? Or the documents where someone forged my signature?" The color drained from their faces. My mom reached for my arm, her voice low and suddenly tender. "Honey, we can work this out. No need for lawyers. We're family." I gently pulled my arm away. "We stopped being family when you decided my savings didn't matter. The DA's office already has everything. Unless you want this to get worse, I suggest you call your lawyer and reverse the transfer." She looked stunned. "You'd send your own mother to jail?" "No, Mom. You might send yourself to jail. I'm just standing up for myself." Eric opened his mouth to say something, but then his phone rang. "Jessica." Her voice carried through the speaker, panicked. "The police are here. They're asking about the deed. They know something's off." They left in a hurry after that, stumbling toward the consequences they never saw coming. Rachel had parked across the street to make sure I was okay. She got out of her car and gave me a hug. "I've never seen you stand up to them like that." "I've never had proof before," I said. "It was always my word against theirs. Not this time." That afternoon, Marcus called. Eric and their lawyer want to settle. They're ready to reverse the deed, pay legal fees, damages too. "Take the deal," I said, without missing a beat. "But I want more than money." "Go on," Marcus replied. "They're signing a statement, a notarized one. Full admission, no pretending this never happened." 2 weeks later, I sat in Marcus's office while my mom, George, and Eric signed every document in front of them. The deed was officially being returned to me. They were covering all legal costs, and they were cutting a check for $50,000 in damages. But the real victory? That signed, notarized statement, admitting in writing they'd tried to defraud me. My mum couldn't stop crying. George wouldn't look up from the floor. Eric. He looked like a shadow of himself. The smug confidence gone, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. Jessica had left him. Turns out he'd been hiding their financial mess from her too. The stolen house was just the tip of the iceberg. "I need all parties to sign here," the notary said, pointing to the final page. One by one, they signed. When it was my turn, my hand didn't shake. Eric stood up and muttered, "I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything." I looked him dead in the eye. "No, Eric. You ruined everything when you decided to steal from me. I just made it right." They filed out, my mum lingering for a moment, trying one last time to catch my gaze, but I didn't look back. The guilt trips didn't work anymore. Neither did the silence, or the tears. That chapter was over. Marcus handed me the newly signed deed with a satisfied grin. "Congratulations, Mark. The house is officially yours." But I wasn't done yet. Actually, I said, reaching into my bag and pulling out another set of documents. I'd like to sell it. His eyebrows lifted. Are you sure? I'm sure. My family had already started spinning stories, telling extended relatives the whole thing was a misunderstanding, a paperwork mix-up, some confusion over names on the deed. What they didn't know was that I'd received an offer, a strong one, from a local developer who wanted to turn the property into upscale apartments. The offer was well above market value. Later that day, Rachel and I sat in our favorite coffee shop going over the numbers. She raised her latte in a toast. They're going to be furious when they find out. They thought you'd let them stay. That's exactly why I'm selling, I said. They need to understand. They don't have any power over me anymore. The next day, I signed the closing documents. The developer was thrilled. My real estate agent was ecstatic. And I was free. The profit from the sale, combined with the settlement money, meant I could finally buy the home I'd always wanted, a quiet cottage with a garden, and still have enough in savings to breathe easy. On the drive home from the title company, my phone buzzed. Voicemail, my mum. I didn't even press play. She was crying, begging probably, telling me how she just found out about the sale. I deleted the message halfway through. Some might call it heartless. I call it boundaries. For the first time in my life, I wasn't setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. They could figure it out on their own. I had a new house to furnish and a garden to build. The following weeks were unexpectedly beautiful. I found the perfect cottage outside the city limits, wraparound porch, warm hardwood floors, just enough yard space for raised garden beds. Rachel helped me paint the rooms in cool, calming colors, nothing like the loud, overbearing tones my mum always insisted were proper for a family home. My phone kept buzzing, angry texts, guilt-ridden voicemails, a few concerned relatives trying to pressure me into reconsidering or healing the family. But there were no more strings to pull. Only Aunt Sarah stood firmly by my side. Over Sunday brunch, she gave me the latest gossip. I ran into your mom at the grocery store, she said. She's been telling everyone how ungrateful you are. She sipped her tea and smirked. But most people know the truth now. That statement they signed, it's made the rounds. I smiled, no longer the difficult son who refused to help his brother. Now I was the guy whose family tried to steal his savings and got caught red-handed. Eric and Jessica split not long after. He moved back in with my parents. Last I heard, he was working retail at a local electronics store, his first actual job in years. A modest rental home, a tight paycheck, no inheritance, no stolen house. Sometimes I drive past their neighborhood on my way into the city. I don't slow down. I don't feel smug. But I do feel settled, not joyful in their struggle, but grounded in the justice. They had every opportunity to do right by me. They chose not to, so I chose me instead. I smiled, not out of warmth, but out of clarity. Exactly, Mom. I am doing well, because I stopped letting people treat me like a resource instead of a person. She looked down, shifting uncomfortably. I know we made mistakes. You didn't make mistakes, I corrected gently. You made choices, repeated ones. And I've made mine. The silence between us was thick, but not hostile. More like the silence of a door closing. She glanced once more at the porch, at the house, at the garden she'd never helped plant. Well? If you ever change your mind, I won't, I said quietly, but I wish you peace. And that was the end of it. She turned, slower than when she arrived, and drove away. That evening I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, the air warm and heavy with the scent of violets. The garden rustled gently in the breeze, full of life I had planted, protected, and watched flourish. This home was mine, every square inch of it bought with hard work, built on boundaries, and watered with lessons learned the hard way. The woman I was a year ago wouldn't have believed how peaceful life could be once you stopped trying to earn love from people who only saw you as convenient. Now I knew better. I wasn't bitter. I was healed, whole, and finally free. Family doesn't steal from family, I said, steady and calm. They don't forge signatures. They don't justify theft because one kid supposedly needs it more. I looked my mother in the eye. You made your choice. Now you're living with the consequences." She left in tears, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. Instead, I felt proud. Not cruel, not angry, just proud. For standing my ground, for finally setting boundaries with people who'd trampled them for years. That evening, I hosted a small cookout at my new place, just my closest people. My cousin Ben, my friend Mark from the hospital, my neighbor Alicia, and of course Rachel, who'd seen me through it all. We sat on the porch with beers and grilled veggies, watching fireflies flicker through the warm air. "This right here," I said, raising my glass, "this is family. Not blood, not guilt, but respect, mutual care, choice." "To boundaries," Rachel said, smiling. "To growth," I added, looking out at the thriving raised beds I'd planted. Tomatoes, squash, lavender all flourishing in the same soil where I'd once felt buried. A year's passed since I stood up to my family, and it still amazes me how different my life is now. My cottage on the edge of town has become more than a house. It's my sanctuary, a place with no guilt, no chaos, no performative love, just peace. The garden out back produced so much last summer, I started donating to the local shelter. Funny, my mother used to say gardening was a waste of time. Now it brings me purpose. And feeds people. That's never a waste. My job at the hospital's changed too. I'm now a nursing supervisor, and I finally take vacation without guilt. I don't answer calls after hours unless it's an emergency. I don't take on extra shifts just because I don't have a real family. Setting boundaries at home taught me how to set them everywhere. Some of the younger nurses call me the calm in the storm. A few even come to me for advice, not just about codes and charting, but life. One recently said, "If you could stand up to your whole family, I can stand up to my ex." That stuck with me. As for my parents and my stepbrother Eric, they're still struggling. But that's not my burden anymore. They made their choices, just like I made mine. Letting go wasn't about revenge. It was about self-respect. The money they tried to steal, just money. What I got back in return, freedom. Worth, control over my own story. The other day I found an old photo from the housewarming party, right before everything collapsed. Looking at their smug faces, I didn't feel bitter. I felt thankful. Because their betrayal forced me to grow into someone stronger, someone who finally realized he was worth more than being the family scapegoat. This spring, the garden's blooming again. Sarah comes by often with her grandkids. They love planting flowers and digging for worms. Rachel and I have weekly coffee on the porch, laughing about how far I've come. Even Jessica, Eric's ex, brings my nephew by sometimes. She says the garden feels healing. I think she's right. No, life isn't perfect, but it's real now. It's mine. No guilt, no manipulation. And maybe the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace, it's boundaries, it's blooming. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd choose myself every single time.